some 12-year-old girl an invisible force in the sky is telling you to move, she would think you're crazy. That's exactly what I thought when my parents sat me down and told me we were moving to a rural town in Minnesota with only 7,000 people. Now, as soon as I said this, so much stuff came to my mind. I was going to miss out on all of my high school dreams. I was supposed to join my sister's improv group, get my license at 15. I'd already gotten good with the director at the high school, so leads were perfectly in my path. And I was supposed to join my church's youth group and go to Valley Fair with them. Now all of this was gone. I couldn't see myself doing any of it in this weird town called Litchfield. My emotions were expressed very negatively. Lots of tantrums and crying and complaining later. My parents had realized that the only way to make me happy was to help me live out the best summer of my life before I moved. The Freedom Summer of 2019 in Fargo, before I moved to Litchfield, I was at my best. Now, because we were moving, my parents told me I couldn't do a summer show, and theater is very important to me. This was like saying you couldn't do your favorite sport or couldn't bake for the rest of the summer. Anything that you love, it felt like it was getting ripped out of my hands. But my sister Molly was 22 at the time, so she wasn't moving with us, and she was in a show and a production of Beauty and the Beast. She ran tech for it, though, as an adult backstage stage manager. So she was supposed to have a middle school helper, but the girl never ended up showing up, so I stepped in as a fill-in. And it was good because this was low commitment. If I had to leave, then an adult could just fill in for me if I left. The stuff that I was learning was stuff I'd never done before, but I had so much fun with it. I was used to being on stage opposed to backstage, but I still had a lot of fun with my sister. Molly knew what it was like to move when you were a teenager, because she moved from California to Fargo when she was only 15. So she empathized with me a lot and helped me live out some of my goals for that summer. Every day at lunch, all of the actors had to go to the green room, and they were not allowed to eat on the stage. And me and my sister would go get food, could be Taco Bell, my favorite, or pizza, or Subway, or anything I wanted, and we would take it back to the theater and eat on the stage. It was so fun. For people that don't know, an empty auditorium is like a safe place for a lot of actors. It just feels like a second home. So for me, with my sister there, a big support, it was amazing. It felt so fun to break all these rules because she was an adult and she got the exceptions. Me and Molly became extremely close that summer. She had actually bought me my first pair of Birkenstocks for my birthday, and that was really important to me. As a 12-year-old, I thought they were like $1,000. So she was very fun, she was a role model for me, and she was a kind and understanding woman, and I will never forget the laughter that we shared that summer. Another thing I did that summer was bike around with my friends Maddie and Esme. At the time, they were my best friends, and we had no rules or restrictions. We didn't have any person to drive us, and both of our parents worked, so we resorted to biking. Now, I looked back at where I used to live and the places we used to bike. We would actually cross state borders to some of the parks in Moorhead, and we would bike up to 3 to 4 miles away from our houses and then bike around town and come back. So we were biking around 10 miles a day. It was extremely fun though. We had barely any limits. All of those memories I will take to heart with me. They're kind of core memories that I'll always remember as being extremely fun. We used to bike to this big green bridge over the interstate, and we would signal at the truckers to honk at us, and some of the very experienced ones would wait till they were right under the bridge and honk extremely loud, and it would echo. Another thing we used to do was climb to the top of the football goalposts and watch the sunset. These were amazing times for us. It felt like we had no restrictions, and it felt like we were on top of the world. Now, my parents didn't really know much about our adventures, so most of them stayed secret. They didn't really know we were crossing state borders either, but my parents understood that I needed this, that it was something that made me happier, and having time with my sister and my friends was something that was going to prepare me for the change and loss that came at the end of the summer. In December, we had sold our house. In January, we began to move, and by February, we were all packed up and leaving. Taylor Swift says it best in her song, "It's Time to Go." Sometimes walking out is the one thing that will find you the right thing, and in your soul, you know when it's time to go. Although I never got to live out my high school dreams, I never got to join my sister's improv group or do a show with that director that really liked me, I got a lot more that summer. I learned how to cope with change, and I learned how to value the current moment instead of idolizing the future. And most importantly, I learned how to ride a bike with no hands. I'm Hailey Vines. In the Freedom Summer of 2019 in Fargo, before I moved to Litchfield, I was at my best. Thank you for listening to my speech.